I've got my ridge vent. The ridge vent is installed. I've got soffit vent, and I've got rafter vents. I've got insulation in the house. And ever since I started to tighten up the house, I noticed I was getting some condensation down in the eaves. That's down. And I started to do a little bit of research. I thought it might have been a roof leak. And you know, as it turns out, I called the manufacturer of the product that was installed, and it was called roof vent installed. And I also looked online at their instructions, and what they called for is a 3/4 inch gap between the top cap shingle and the shingle below it. And you know, if you look, we go all along the roof here. I'm going to try to get as close as I can with the camera. That gap goes anywhere from maybe 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. Some places maybe 3/8. You know, over here. Basically what they did was the contractor, they nailed it down tight. They didn't leave any gap. They just nailed it down tight. Now, mind you, this ventilation material, it's designed to keep, you know, water out and insects. You know, it's probably about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches thick, and it's supposed to compress down to 3/4 of an inch. But as you can see here, they've got it anywhere from maybe 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch. So I called up the manufacturer and I talked to one of their tech service guys, and what he told me was, if you don't have 3/4 of an inch, then it's installed wrong. And I told him, I says, you know, I have, you know, maybe 1/4 inch gap. You can see, you look along here, it is nailed tight all the way across, right? When I told him what I had for a gap, he says it won't work. Absolutely won't. 1/4 inch will not work. You will get no airflow. We're down off the roof. This is the product, Roof Saver Attic Ventilation. It's a rolled ridge vent, 3/4 inch thick, 10.5 inches wide. This one here is 50 feet long. I still have the box because there was some product left over and I was going to use it on a shed installation. If you look down here, if you look at the profile, right, this gap right here, easily 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so this is just a mock-up. These are the exact shingles that were installed on my house. This is the ridge vent itself. It's a kind of a mesh type material that will allow air to flow and keep the bugs out. And then this would have been the cap. You know, this is a 3-part shingle, and it would have been cut, and they would use these pieces here times 3 for the cap going across the ridge. A lot of guys do it that way. You can buy the cap separately, but I think it's a little bit more expensive. So, you know, if you look at the profile here, again, 3/4 of an inch. When the guys did mine, okay, it looked like this. It was about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. And by compressing this ventilation material, this mesh, what they did basically was make it from a semi-solid material to pretty much a solid, and they cut off the airflow. They choked the airflow coming up from the soffits, and would not allow the air to flow through the ridge the way that it's supposed to. So if you were, you know, if you had a roof installed, or if you have a moisture problem in your house, condensation problem, airflow problem, and you're not sure what it is, you're scratching your head, you've got a new roof, you thought everything was done correctly, it could be 100% done incorrectly. And this is a classic example right here of how it could be done incorrectly. You saw the pictures that I had of the actual roof. 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch gap. Manufacturer says 3/4 of an inch gap. They give you a pad that you put on your nail gun that prevents you from compressing this down. I mean, those guys really, they had to work pretty hard to get that down as tight as they did, to be honest. They, I'm sure they just used regular nails, and just, there was no spacer, and they just nailed it down as tight as they could, because they don't know any better. So there you have it. How you doing, guys? This is Glad Keeper here. I'm here with Blaine Smith from Blaine Smith Contracting, and these guys are fixing my ridge vent today. Unfortunately, we got a little bit of rain. They were able to cap the thing before the rain started, so I'm not concerned with any water coming in. But these guys came out as promised, and we're going to do a little interview with Blaine here in a couple minutes. Blaine Smith from Smith Contracting Company, and Blaine is replacing my ridge vent today. My ridge vent was installed improperly. He's got his crew here. He's got Eric and Pete with him, and I'm just gonna ask Blaine a couple of questions here, while we got him. Blaine, you've been in the roofing business for a few years now, right?
30 years.
30 years, right? And when you came out here and you saw my roof today, what did you think? Did you think the ridge vent was installed properly?
It was installed completely wrong. They installed it with a gun, and they used a ridge vent that they shot on, and the nails that they used were too short, so they had to sink the nails, so the ridge vent wasn't even working. It was completely closed off. So.
Right, and I had a couple of nails out here earlier. Pete, do you have a couple of those nails? Do we still have one of those old nails on a new nail? If we don't have them here,
This is the length of the nail that should have been used.
So we got the nail that should have gone in, and I guess what happened was the material they used on the rolled ridge vent was compressed, and it wasn't ventilating properly. So here's the difference in length on the nails there. And just as a testimony to the kind of guy that Blaine is, he came here this morning, and he had shingles with him to finish the job, and he thought that the color was off just a little bit. So what he did was he went back to the store on his own dime and picked up the right color shingles. And again, it was only off by a shade, but he just didn't think it was right. And that's the kind of work that he does. So I really appreciate him and his crew coming out here today in the rain to get this job done. But we'll have a final. I'll show the roof when it's all done. And another thing, the way Blaine does his ridge vents is he hand nails. That's true that these guys hand nail all that stuff?
Absolutely. Any roof that's not plywood needs to be hand nailed. A ridge vent always needs to be hand nailed. You can't, on a planked roof, when you shoot it with a gun, the wood will break. You're putting 90 pounds of pressure to a size that big.
Right.
So it'll actually blow a hole through the roof. So it needs to be hand nailed. A plywood roof needs to be shot because a smooth shank nail will come right out of a plywood roof. Whereas on a coil nail, it has a barb like a fish hook when it comes out of the gun, and it prevents the nail from backing out. That's the reasonings on plywood. You don't want to hand bang a plywood roof with a smooth shank nail. Because
right.
When you're banging over here, nails over here could start backing out.
Right, there you go.
Nails that have already in the roof. So.
There you go, folks. That's a guy that's been doing this stuff for 30 years. He knows his business. Unfortunately, this is my second roof job in just a couple of years, but I'm hoping it will be my last. And I'll have some video for you in a bit to show you what the roof looks like when it's done properly. Okay, I finally got a chance to get up on the roof. A few months have passed since Blaine Smith and his crew did my ridge vent over, and a couple weeks ago I was underneath in the eaves, and I looked up above the insulation to see how it looked, and everything is bone dry. Where in the past I've had condensation, and if the condensation continued, it would have completely destroyed my new addition. So anyways, Blaine came out here, and his guys installed this product that's called Ridge Vent 2. And as you can see, let me get up a little closer here. As you can see, the profile's a little bit different. You've got at least a 1-inch reveal. This product here is completely different from the last product that was on here was a mesh type material. This is a rigid plastic, and they've done a lot of testing with it. Matter of fact, the University of Florida, they conducted a smoke test in a controlled environment. Pretty interesting video to watch if you're in the market for ridge vent material. The original contractor, Bond Construction Company out of Peabody, I wouldn't recommend them at all. You know, I mean, to be honest, you know, when I told the owner of the company what my suspicions were, and you know, I told him about the condensation, he basically said, you know, why don't you pay for the material and then you know, get your material and then give me a call. And to me, that's just not the right answer. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't want those guys coming back to work on my house. Even when I brought it to the owner's attention, he was in no hurry to come out here. He didn't even want to come out here and look at the job. To be honest, he took my word for it that it was done incorrectly. So that speaks volumes in itself.